Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to do a your painless nitrogen test. Okay, you want to do your nitrogen test before you do your vacuum. It's real important because, as we know, a vacuum sucks and it pulls. And you want to get all your air and moisture stuff out of the line, but you want to have pressurized the line because when you get from the manufacturer, the ODU here is completely sealed off. It doesn't have any issues at all. It's not leaking. You can see nothing's happening. You know that's already sealed. Until you release that two valves here, it's self-contained. The IDU, your inside unit, it was self-contained too. And when you undid those little ends on it when you first got it, you noticed the nitrogen came out, and so that was sealed. Okay, if the nitrogen didn't come out, there's an issue. But anyway, if it was filled with nitrogen, that's not leaking. So the only thing that's leaking is these two connections here and the two connections you made at the inside unit. All right, so you're really just testing the line. You're testing those four connections, two here and two there, and you're pressure testing them with nitrogen. And then if nothing's leaking, then you do your vacuum, suck everything out, so then there'll be no moisture or air or nitrogen or nothing inside with your vacuum, okay? So first things first, real quick, a painless nitrogen test. You don't need a bunch of gauges. You don't need a whole bunch of stuff. You have your nitrogen gauge, of course. You have to have that just to get nitrogen out of the bottle. But it's set up. You sit there, open it up. Like right now, you make sure this thing's all the way open so there's no pressure coming down the system. You open this thing up, and here I got about 2,000 pounds, whatever. And here you want to give it a little bit. So just open enough to put a little air into it. And so you have a little bit on there. This thing goes all the way up to 600 pounds. And so I only got a little bit in there. I don't want to shoot a bunch of air, which is in this hose, into the system when I go to do this test. So I want to release it a little bit here. Okay, so release it a little bit. Make sure there's nothing in it. And it's capped off. And all these connections here, you want to do by hand. You don't want to do any wrenches or anything like that. I already took out the Schrader valve. Okay, I already took that out because just when you do vacuuming or when you do your nitrogen test, you don't want a bunch of blockages, So anyway, this gauge here is the only one you're going to be concerned with, and so here we're going to go ahead and go now. So right now, I'm going to give it I'm just going to start like 150 pounds or whatever, and I bring it into there. It's no issue. Now this right here, this is about to come into, I'm about to release it now into the system, okay? I got it blocked off right here. In case you don't know, this is a 5/16 Schrader valve removal tool, okay? And so it fits right on our mini splits. So it's not the black one, which is a 1/4 inch. We use that on when we do vacuuming, but for now, got the 5/16 one going, and we have it blocked off. We have it set up. So I'm going to release this into there. You want to do everything slowly. And right now I got about 100 pounds of nitrogen in there. I'm going to bring it up to 300 pounds, and then I'm going to hold it there for 10 minutes or so. Okay, I got about 250. Okay, it's sitting around 260 right now. So it's under 260. I'm just going to leave it there and see how it goes. And we'll leave it for 10 minutes. As soon as the 10 minutes is up, we'll come back, and if we haven't gone down at all, everything's still fine. Like right now, what I can do is just so we're not charging it into the system, I'm going to block this off, and now this is just reading the system. That's why you're using this tool. So now we know that the nitrogen is turned off. It doesn't really do anything at this point. Matter of fact, I'll just turn it off and release the pressure. So everything said. This thing here is reading 260 or so. All right, so we're gonna go check in 10 minutes, and there's nothing coming into this thing from this bottle. It's just what's reading in the place. And so during the 10 minutes, you can get some non-corrosive bubble tester, and you're going to put it on this one here on these connections and put it over there too. This is good enough to read, but because it's not digital, it's analog, you want to make sure you know that you can't see that. It's not like a micron gauge where you can see little increments leaving. So you just want to double check it and make sure it's fine after 10 minutes. But you can double check it with the bubbles. Okay, so we're going to do that. I use Better Bubble by Rector Seal. Fantastic stuff. Not only is it non-corrosive for our HVAC units, which really you need. You really don't want to be using regular soap. It can be corrosive to all kinds of parts. But anyway, that stuff works great. And what's nice about it is, look at this, man. I mean, I put this on a couple minutes ago, and the bubbles just stay. So in other words, they don't just wipe off, and you're wondering if there's stuff around it. Look at that. There's stuff all around that whole thing. It's just sitting there, and it's not. There's nothing of course. There's nothing growing, and so literally, can you imagine? I mean, it is just a wonderful product. The way it just sits there, and you can tell if there was a leak at all, those little micro bubbles, you'd see a million of them just growing. This thing would start having all kinds, because it's such an awesome product. It's so thick and gnarly and full of bubbles, if you will, its own bubbles, not from nitrogen, not from the gas or anything like that. So anyway, that's just wonderful. I mean, literally, you can check. So it's already the machine itself. We're out there, got it set up with the gauges, so it hadn't gone down at all. But you want to double check your 4 connections and see that they're fine. So we'll go outside and check those too. But now we know the inside's not leaking at all. Okay, we're back here again on the outside unit. Get around this gauge. I can show you. It's not leaking up. It's real hard to show you. Anyway, nothing's leaking. It's working perfect. You just got to double check it's not leaking. And if you know it's not leaking, then it's great. We'll do that for 10 minutes. Okay, the gauge itself, I already got the nitrogen bottle taken away. The hose was in my way, so I couldn't show you this. But anyway, the gauge itself is still showing the exact same thing. It's 260 pounds. And double check the no bubbles anywhere. So actually working perfect. But it showed that, of course, on the showed that also on the gauge, you know, that it wasn't moving. So anyway, perfect. The nitrogen test is done, and now we'll go ahead and proceed to vacuum the lines. Okay, you wanted to have the nitrogen in there, and then we'll hook up the vacuum pump to it, and also I'll show you how to disengage the valve and put on the micron gauge, and we'll go from there. Okay, so that ends our nitrogen testing, and I'll shoot you the next video for putting on the vacuum pump. Okay, now we're getting ready to do our vacuum, and I have the micron gauge set up there. You can see I have the second valve core removal tool there, so I can isolate that when I go to put the refrigerant in the lines. It doesn't mess up my micron gauge. So I have that second valve core removal tool there, so I can isolate it when the time comes. So for now, we're ready to do our micron test. We're ready to do our vacuum testing, which will be on the micron valve right there, our micron tester right there. So we'll be able to see it go. So here we go. I wanted to tell you that what we're going to do is by pulling this thing, you can see how small the hose is. It's just literally from there to there. It's a very small little hose. We don't need a lot of hose to make this thing work. You don't need gauges like you see the gauge over there. Yeah, there's no gauges. Look how long those hoses are anyway. And plus all those different spots where it could leak. Here you got very few spots that could leak. You know what I mean? And so this is what you want to do for your vacuum test is you want to have as few possible leak areas as possible, and that way you get your best, your best thing going. And so I don't want to use gauges because there's like, what, 11 potential leaks over there. Here there's a couple, but with good valve core removal tools and a good micron gauge, everything's set up. I mean, it's set up at just very little. And so we're going to go ahead and watch this thing come down and see how it does, and we'll go from there. I'll keep you informed and up to date. Okay, after 10 minutes of with this little girly vacuum pump, can get on Amazon for a couple of dollars with a set of gauges. Anyway, it worked fine. The micron gauge just turned off by itself, and it was at 165. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the vacuum, and I'm going to hold it as a test to see if it goes down at all. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on. Okay, so the micron gauge turned off after 10 minutes or whatever. Just perfect timing. Anyway, it was holding at 170 or whatever. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this vacuum pump off. And anyway, it was holding at 170 or whatever after 10 minutes. So I went ahead and turned it off here, set up the thing so it's now isolated. The vacuum pump has no connection to it at all. And it's just now at a resting micron. So right now we're set up at, I don't know if you can see it, it's 230. And we're going to go ahead and let it sit there for 10 minutes and see if it holds. If it doesn't go over 500, it's fine. So in other words, if it doesn't go over 500 while it's resting, that's a resting vacuum, then it'll be considered good. And after a 10-minute vacuum, we'll be able to release the refrigerant into the system, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So anyway, we'll come back in 10 minutes and take a look at what it looks like. Okay, it's been 20 minutes, and it's supposed to only be 10 minutes, but I got something from Amazon. I was over there looking at it and lavishing on some love to it, and forgot what I was doing. So anyway, you're only supposed to have to wait 10 minutes, but I wound up waiting 20, and right now it is, if you can see that, 329, whatever. Anyway, it's below 500, and you only got supposed to wait 10 minutes, and if it stays below 500, you're fine to release the refrigerant. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and do that procedure. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that in a second, and let me go ahead and get ready. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the procedure now of getting rid of the vacuum pump and releasing the gas. So what we're going to do is release the gas from here, and what you want to do is you don't want to ever mess up your micron gauge, though. The gas will mess it up. So that's why you have your secondary tool here, the valve stem removal tool. And so I'm going to go ahead and wall that off, and that is stopped. It does change when you do that. You can see the number going up a little bit, but it's walled off. It doesn't hurt nothing. It's not part of the system anymore by turning it off. And now I'm going to, the gauge, this has already been taken off here. And so what I'm going to do is, instead of just opening it up and maybe allowing some stuff to get into our perfectly good vacuum, what I want to do is open this up just a hair and put it back down to bring it back to just a little bit more past positive. So I'm going to open it up. They say to open it up for 5 seconds or whatever, but you don't even need that much. That just put positive pressure behind it. So now I have refrigerant in the lines, and let me do it one more time. And then now I'm going to go ahead and now that I have refrigerant all the way up to here, it won't mess with our this thing here at all. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. It doesn't change anything. And now I'm going to put the valve stem back in. What's nice about these Appian valve stem removal tools is they have magnets on the, well, at least the good ones, the new ones do. They have magnets on them so you don't lose them, see? They sit there like this, they click right onto your metal so you're all set up, and this thing still has the valve stem from when I took it off earlier. And what you want to do is bring it over here. You go in like this, but you bring this thing here up. Okay, you bring this part here up like this. You don't try to stick it through there because this thing's valved off. So you can only go so far, but you bring this thing up to it and get it set up. And what I'm going to do is crack it a hair and get some of the extra out of here, so watch. See, just release a little bit there, and that way there's for sure nothing from outside coming in. Okay, it's all pushed out, and then you push this thing forward, because now that I have it all open, I'm allowed to push this thing forward. But because it's under pressure, I only get a little bit of pressure in there. I didn't release the whole thing, so it's not under tremendous pressure, but it's still under some pressure. And so you got to force it up there. You force it in, it's under pressure, so you got to force it up there and turn it while you're holding it, okay? So I'm going to bring it in, and it's under pressure, like I said, but you just turn it while you're holding it forward. And then you just cinch it off. And then what you want to do is, because I'm trying to think of something else I was going to say here. I can't remember what I was going to tell you, but all right. So anyway, at this point now, this thing's in, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close this off right here. Okay, now that I got it in, and now I'm going to release the little bit of pressure from here. Okay, and now I'm going to see if this thing's leaking from the valve stem by checking it slowly here. See, it's perfect. Now I'm going to show you the test thing I have for this too before I remove this part here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off for now and get my test cap, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I got the little test plug, so it is just a regular cap, and I just drilled a hole in it, and you can see the hole anyway. Put that on here, and then you just put a little bit of bubble stuff on it. Again, having this awesome stuff here called Better Bubble, just nice and thick and gnarly, you know. Just put it inside the hole, and then if you don't see any bubbles, then you know your Schrader valve is holding. Okay, so you got to give it a couple minutes, see if you see any bubbles there. If not, then you know your Schrader valve's holding, and it was a good procedure. You went through the whole thing, and we did the nitrogen test, perfect. We did a vacuuming test, held for under 500 microns, and perfect. And then we are about to release the refrigerant. We released some of it so we could do this part of the test and get the valve core back in. And now, once that, we already noticed that that is gone. Okay, so we know there's no bubbles. It's been a couple minutes. There's no bubbles, so we can just remove this here now. Trying to go the wrong direction, moron. All right. Anyway, so we know that everything's fine on there. I was going to say we're going to do the refrigerant now, but before we do, I was going to tell you that when you go to put these caps on, you can use some what the hell's it called? My brain. Nylon on these threads. On all three of these threads, to put the cap on, and you know you can just cinch it on. It'll keep them from, in case there is some problem with their system, it won't affect you at all. Okay, but right now we know there's nothing leaking here, and so we're all set. So I'm going to go ahead and release the refrigerant now. You just want to release all the way through this one, and when you release them, you just come all the way out till it stops. You don't have to go farther than that. It has a stop on it. It'll stop by itself. I'm going to move this. Okay, just until it bottoms out. You don't have to go further than that. Okay, we're all set. Like I said, put a little nylon on here, on all three of them, cinch it up a little bit, and you're golden. Okay? All right, if you have any questions, put them down below, and I'll get back to you ASAP.